allegations of abuse within his program. Marshall received a settlement from the school that will pay him $7.75 million over the next 6 years. The NFL Network says the league is looking into the incident involving Antonio Brown, where he allegedly damaged a security camera at his gated community in South Florida. Bears head coach Matt Nagy says the hip injury suffered by quarterback Nick Foles last night was not as bad as they thought, but Foles will undergo more tests today. Bears have a bye coming up in Week 11. I'm Dan Beyer.
Wes, what's up, buddy? Hey, man, you ready to go? You hold it down, man? All right, buddy, let's get after it. All right, hold on. Yeah, man, you're right. Well, welcome into the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. Folks already streaming into the live stream over on the Facebook page. Just look for the rundown with Rob Sanders. I'll answer all the questions that are over there to the best of my ability. But first, I have to bring in someone who's a lot smarter than I am. Of course, a man who laced them up for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, Wes Bryant from the ACC Digital Network. Wes, I don't know if you're listening to the program lately, but I've been openly putting it out there that Dave Clawson needs to be the next head coach at South Carolina. Tell people why I'm not crazy. I'm just saying, not to be disrespectful, but Coach Clawson is an absolutely great coach, and I tell you what, man, he builds programs. I mean, you look at what he's done with Wake Forest, and I think he's 3 games under 500 overall. His first 2 seasons, he was 3-9 up there, but ever since then, steadily building. And just, I think all these names that have been thrown out there, I'm like, you're not even looking up at Winston-Salem. What is wrong with you people? You know what? And I know there's a lot of people that are saying that now. I think I was one of the few people that I said I just didn't get it. It didn't really make much sense to me. But I'm also one of the people that believe then, you know what? If you've been somewhere before, I don't like the idea of a retread. Okay, I like the idea of someone who can actually build a program and then go from there. And if you've been fired by a school, which is why the whole Hugh Freeze thing is silly as all get out to me. Stuff that they're still dealing with the problems that he had at Ole Miss 3 years afterwards. And they're talking about bringing him back into the SEC. I just don't get it. And I'll never get it. And people that are, in my opinion, are very conservative South Carolina fans here in our city here are like, man, that's the guy that we need. And I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, but hiring a coach, you got to admit, is one of the hardest things an athletic director has to do.
actually, when I saw them when they beat Syracuse, really, I think he was going to probably end up back in the SEC.
Well, you and I could disagree and still be friends. I know you want to keep Coach Clausen up at Wake Forest, so it's okay. I completely understand. But I thought about you twice on Saturday, and I went to I do our pregame and postgame show for the best Gamecock coverage on our sister station, and I reach over to tweet out to you, and then all of a sudden things after other things are going on. But the first thing I thought of was, wow, look at what Wake Forest is doing to North Carolina, hanging 53 on them, and the defense kind of falls off a little bit late, but still a great performance for the Deacs this past weekend.
A 21-point lead, you have to try to hold on to that if possible. And I get it against North Carolina. It was tough to take how the breakdown happened. And that's a game that you feel like you should win, but like I said, this North Carolina team, we know their MO and what they do. They're a fourth quarter team. They love to score the points on late. I don't know what it is about them. It's like they leave their game in the dorm room for the first half, and then the second half they come out like gangbusters. But this game from the beginning was just attractive. But then what happened, I felt Wake should have won that football game, but the final score says what it says. They did not get that done. But yeah, like I said, it was a good performance. But I expect the Wake Forest to win that game. And when they came out and lost, especially the way they lost it, I think it was a disappointing loss. Even though, like I said,
Wes Bryant from the ACC Digital Network joins us now, and I have to ask you about players opting out because it seems like we're seeing a lot more of that. South Carolina has had 4 in the past 24 hours. Of course, Israel Mukwamu, J.C. Horn, R.J. Roderick, and I think it's Kabias Scott was the other young man that decided to opt out. A couple of them decided to, hey, go on to the pros, but this is something that's happening too with Florida State. If I remember correctly, I think they lost a wide receiver in the past week, and Marvin Wilson is in limbo as well, right? Right. Well, and here's something else that a lot of people, I don't know if they're overlooking it or not, but when you look at I use South Carolina, and I know that you cover the ACC, but I'm using them as an example here. They lose those 4 guys. If you don't have enough guys to field a team, and what I mean by that is that with the way the COVID-19 protocols are, with the contact tracing and everything else, you could literally cost your team games down the road that they can't reschedule. I mean, I think that's when you just step back a little bit, I mean, it's just an absolute mess. And a lot of these young men are taking a beating on Twitter and everything else. I don't think people should tweet at college athletes, but in my opinion, if I'm an NFL scout and I look at these guys and they quit on their team, it's going to be hard for me to invest a higher round draft pick on them.
And just family members thinking about the money and things like that are influencing. And want them to get to the money, and that's all people thinking about. Oh, the money, you're going to the pros and things like that, and you'll never get the experience back of playing in college. And as I said, yeah, there's a lot of circumstances going on in the world. We know what's going on, but this is also a special time to bond with your guys, to really go through, some adversity and come out of it together. So, like I said, to each their own, but I'm just not a fan of it at all. I just think that it's just a lot of people putting the wrong advice in these kids' ears.
All right, well, let's move along to something that's positive. Let's talk about some of the games for this weekend. Clemson comes back from the bye week, and they will head down to Tallahassee to play Florida State. I don't like to get into the gambling set too much with the guests that come on, but the Seminoles are a 35-point underdog at home. Growing up in the South, I've never saw Florida State be that big of an underdog at home, man. We've talked about this before with the folks that have been out. I mean, they have really, really slipped off the radar.
Yeah, they have. And like I said, things are really bad down there. Tamari and Terry, who knows what happened with that situation. Jordan Travis doesn't travel with them for the football game. Marvin Wilson's gone. Things are just as bad. As a kid growing up as a big Florida State fan like I was, I never thought I would see things slip to the level that it has there as well. As I said, I picked them preseason to finish around 12th or so. I did not expect much from this football team, but the way that it's gone and just the way things have happened. It's one thing, if you're competitive in a lot of games, guys are giving their all, and guys are really trying to, do what they can to make Florida State and leave in a little bit better place for the up and coming crew. But it's just been just bad news after bad news down there. We'll see going forward. Mike Norvell, he's had about as bad of a year as you could have, and some would argue that he's contributed to that some. But yeah, Florida State does not look good right now. They got an angry Clemson football team coming in, so I'm sure that Florida State would have rather them get a resounding victory against Notre Dame than to come down from loss and everybody questioning them and their validity for this season. So I don't think Clemson's going to be worried about that too much when they take the field.
The other matchup this weekend, Liberty's going for the trifecta. They've already beat Virginia Tech and Syracuse. They get an NC State team this weekend. Looking at that matchup, it's hard for me to pick against Liberty with the way that NC State is. It seems like they've been up and down, but since they lost their quarterback, it's just been kind of bumpy there for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, it has been. And like I said, they came out and gave Miami a very tough game. They get a win against Florida State. But right now, when you talk about Liberty, it's tough to down these guys, especially after you see them go into Blacksburg and do what they did. Now, Virginia Tech's no gold standard when you're talking about the ACC, but we know what Virginia Tech did when they played NC State early in the year. And I don't think the NC State a better football team than Virginia Tech is. Now, that's not to say that NC State has no chance, but as I said, I've doubted Liberty when they played the Hokies, and so I will not doubt them again. It's a good football team. They have a lot of speed. That kid, Malik Willis, the quarterback, he's a real playmaker. And so I think it's all they can handle and more with Liberty. Like I said, if they look to beat their third ACC team.
One of the other things that I wanted to get with you this afternoon about with the ACC, you've got 3 ACC teams in the top 12 as far as the AP poll goes. And I know the AP poll is not, it kind of gives us a guideline on teams. But when I look at that, it's frustrating to me to see teams from the Big Ten like Ohio State. Like, we can look at them and give them the eyeball stuff. Yes, they've got a great quarterback and they've got this and that, but they're not going to play enough games, in my opinion, at the end of the season to earn a spot in the CFP. And if I'm a Miami team and I roll through, and Miami has Notre Dame on the schedule as well, right? I can't remember off the top of my head. well, then they'll one of them will have another loss. But you have teams like that and teams in the SEC. If they go through that conference schedule and play almost twice as many games, I think they have more of a we've seen what they can do compared to what Ohio State is. It's hard for me to say, hey, we're going to put a Big Ten team in that's may finish at 6-0. Does that make sense? Well, so in theory, Miami could go through their schedule and finish 10-1. Notre Dame could finish 11 if they lose to Clemson and Clemson wins the ACC championship game and all of them win out. You've got 3 one-loss ACC teams, I think, that have a better resume than what Ohio State's going to have if they play 6 games.
My guy, I'm gonna have to disagree with you again. For one, you can't hold it against the kids for the circumstances that they put them in. But I think when you talk about Ohio State, we know the brand. We know what they do when they get these situations, and we know that they're one of the 4 best teams in the country. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion. As I said, they were my national championship pick coming into the season. They're playing phenomenal football. They look very focused. And as a football fan, let's just keep it real. I'm HCC all day.
The top 10 team, yep. Okay, well, respectfully, and then you and I do this every week, but the reality is that it's going to be hard for me to tell De'Aaron King, hey, you went 10-1, and you went through everything, had 1 loss to Clemson, but we're not going to even remotely consider you over Ohio State, and Ohio State has 5 or 6 wins on the season. That's kind of my other end of it too. We're kind of, I understand not taking it away from the Ohio State players. I get that, but the Notre Dame players, the Clemson players, the Miami players, the kids from Texas A&M. I mean, we can go up and down the board here, and it really bothers me the whole way that this is kind of shaking out, where we're going to be force-fed Ohio State. Well, let's use Notre Dame, because that's probably a better example. A Notre Dame team that goes into the ACC championship game and they lose to Clemson. You're going to tell Notre Dame you have 1 loss on the season. It's to Clemson. It's close in Charlotte. Clemson's the ACC champion. Sorry, you can't go because we're going to be force-fed Ohio State at the 1st of November. Right. They beat Clemson. All right, so we could still be friends and disagree on that, but I'm hoping for a good college football playoff either way. But I tell you what, man, it's going to be interesting to say the least. My last question for you, for Wes Bryant from the ACC Digital Network: if you are a player and what are some of the transitions you think that guys at South Carolina are going to have to deal with Will Muschamp leaving? How do you think the players are going to respond to that? Loaded question, right? You can't hear me?
It's an interesting transition because, again, not to put myself into it as well, but I was at the University of Florida when Coach Spurrier left. Now, I was transferring, so it didn't really matter to me. But I know it was just a weird time for the guys because you just don't know who's coming in. And you know a new coach, when they come in, they're going to implement their policies to try to weed out the weak, so to speak. So yeah, like I said, it's a tough question to answer because we don't know how the team felt about him. But you know, when there's a lot of losing involved, then you know that the culture there may not be what they want, and there's probably a strong contingent of guys who are ready for a fresh start.
All right, Wes Bryant from the ACC Digital Network. I appreciate you joining us and talking a little ACC football. I enjoy the jousting with you, sir. That I get tired of people just agreeing with me just to agree with me. So I appreciate it, man.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
No problem, man. It was a great conversation today.
Tell me how we can find your stuff, man. I know you do a lot of stuff with the Digital Network and, of course, on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, you can catch up with us on ACC Digital Network on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all social platforms. The ACC Digital Network is there. You can catch me personally on Twitter, Westcott Range, or Instagram, Westcott Range 704. You can come on in and tell me you think what I'm saying is hogwash, or you can tell me you think I'm the greatest. Either way, I'm with it. As Charles Barkley says, only God is an expert.
There you go, man. Hey, Wes, appreciate you joining us, man. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. Thank you as always.
All right, there you go. Wes Bryant from the ACC Digital Network joining us here on the Rundown this afternoon. I'll tell you what, man, I'm going to go, and I know people think, well, Rob's just being a guy that likes to rip Ohio State. It's not an issue of that. They're not playing enough games. I know that sounds like I'm being crazy out here, but if you can look the greatest, but if you don't play, how do we know? How do we truly know that Ohio State, just because, it's the eyeball test, and we just have to go because we like Justin Fields and it's Ohio State. When you look at Ohio State's schedule, okay, as of right now, they've played Nebraska, Penn State, who's 0-4, Rutgers. Their matchup this weekend is against number 9 Indiana. That should be a tough matchup. I get that. They have Illinois, Michigan State, and Michigan.
Do I need to say any more? Do I need to say any more on that? You've got Ohio State playing Indiana. And at the beginning of the season, did anybody think Indiana was going to be just a great team that finishes in the top 10? No. So when you look at the rest of the Big Ten, it's like their schedule. I don't know if the conference did this on purpose, but the rest of the Big Ten, they didn't get really any of the other good teams from the Big Ten on their schedule. Now, I know you can make the argument that, hey, nobody thought Penn State was going to be bad as they are. I mean, I'll give you that. But on the other end of it too, though, Ohio State, as I'm looking through the rest of the top 25 here of teams that they do get number 9 Indiana. They don't get number 10 Wisconsin. And as I'm rolling through here, they don't get number 19 Northwestern, who's 4-0. And it's just, I look at this and I'm like, if they had one more of the top 10 or one more of the top Big Ten teams on there, you might have a little bit of way to go with me. But it's going to be really hard for me to say, hey, Notre Dame, you played a full ACC schedule, 11 games on the season. You beat Clemson at home when they were the number 1 team in the country. You lose a close game in Charlotte. Sorry, you don't get to go to the college football playoff. We're going to take a team that has 6 wins. Thanks for playing. That's an absolute disaster in my opinion. And I feel the same way about Oregon too, by the way, even though I think Oregon's a good team. I'd even venture to say if Notre Dame squared off with Ohio State and Oregon and they played at a neutral site, you might give them an advantage. Edwin has a good point here. They'll have to beat one of them in the Big Ten championship game. Yeah, I'm with you on that. But the way that things have been going, they may have 5 regular season wins and 1 win in the postseason. So we're going to send a team that plays 6 games, and there's going to be such a contingent of folks that are going to say, you know what? They have to be in the college football playoff. It's not right. It's not right. I'm not buying it at all. We'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I want to get into these players that are opting out for South Carolina. I agree with what Wes said about, give them the, he was very, it wasn't like he was over the top angry about it, but I think that if you're a Gamecock fan and you've supported these guys the entire time they've been there, it's kind of tough to sit here and say, you know what? Coach just left. I'm out. Especially the guys that, according to Coach Bobo, were blaming it on the COVID. Stop. You were just playing and getting your butt lit up by Ole Miss the other night. You weren't thinking about COVID then. That's just not cool at all. Now, I know people are going to be like, you can't make them play. I get that. But the reality is that if you sign on to do something, you should just do it. Finish it out. That makes more sense to me than anything. We'll take calls on that this afternoon at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call. And I'm going to give you the odds on several different coaches that are, I don't know, people are talking about. Sports Bet Online or something put out the odds for certain coaches to come to South Carolina. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about what I think you should hire. And even if it's not Dave Clawson, Dave Clawson should be the first call. First call. I don't understand. If you enjoy winning and you enjoy building a better program, Dave Clawson should be your first call. And what I mean by winning, I mean winning as in you're going to win football games and you're not going to be on probation. Just saying. So we'll talk about that when we come back here on the Rundown. Don't forget, Teddy Hefner's on in the morning. from 9 to noon. He had on Ellis Johnson yesterday, the former Gamecock defensive coordinator. I posted that interview on my blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com. Great interview with the guy that coached under Coach Steve Spurrier, coached guys like Jadeveon Clowney and several other great players. His thoughts were pretty interesting, so go and check that out. Take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more on the rundown in just a moment on Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Mobilize with All Medical.
Hi, it's Gary David. If you or a loved one is facing challenges at home with mobility and daily activities, All Medical can help. They've been in business nearly 30 years and have earned a great reputation. Read dozens of reviews at allmedicalinc.com, like Ann, who says, we had a very positive experience. The staff was knowledgeable and friendly. Chris, the installer, knew exactly what we needed and did a great job putting our chairlift in and explaining how to use it. So whether you need something simple like a grab bar or a ramp or something bigger like a home elevator or a walk-in tub, All Medical has the products to make life at home easier. They're accredited and can help you with the details of filing if an item's covered by your insurance. Let me encourage you to call them today. All Medical, 803-779-2011. See them online at allmedicalinc.com or visit their showroom right next door to Brooklyn Baptist Church in West Columbia. All Medical. Quality of life is what they're all about.
Don't compromise, mobilize with All Medical.
Need quality HVAC solutions? Trust On-Call Plumbing, Heating, and Air. At On-Call, we're a team of experts providing heating, ventilation, and air conditioning services for homes and businesses in the Midlands. For any HVAC emergency, On-Call Plumbing, Heating, and Air is here 24/7 to serve you with trained technicians, not trained salespeople. Visit us online at OnCallSC.com to schedule a service today.
On-Call Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Pick up the phone and we'll be right there. Call 781-HELP.
Kirk Commercial Construction is a licensed general contractor in South Carolina. Since 2011, Chris Kirk, a Columbia native with 20 years of construction experience, has believed in meeting his customers' needs. Kirk Commercial Construction is capable of performing any retail or office expansion, new construction, metal building, or commercial renovation work. In addition to Kirk's commercial construction projects, their service division can assist you with commercial and maintenance tasks. If you need it right, call 803-250-2495 or kirkcommercialconstruction.com.
Hi, I'm Alicia Kaufman Quinton. My daddy, Billy Kaufman, opened Kaufman's Meat Plant at our present location in 1955. My family still works hard every day to ensure fresh quality cuts of beef, pork, and poultry. How about tasty T-bone, ribeye, or New York strip steak? But to order at Kaufman's Meat Place, just look for the signs near the intersection of US 1 and I-20 in Lexington. Call us at 356-0076 to place your order. Kaufman's Meat Place, when you want the very best your money can buy.
No crowded malls. No delayed deliveries. Holiday shopping is different at Boot Barn. Get the in-store experience from the comfort of your home while a virtual shopper does your shopping for you over a video call. For those within 20 miles of a store, get local same-day delivery, where we'll deliver your items directly to your door. Learn more about our holiday services at bootbarn.com. Boot Barn. Unwrap the West.
This is Doug Gottlieb. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by the Men's Clinic SC.com.
The NFL makes history this week when the first all-black officiating crew takes the field. League celebrates its diverse officiating department on Monday Night Football. Clemson gearing up for Saturday's meeting with Florida State. Fourth-ranked Tigers coming off a bye following their double OT loss to Notre Dame. And South Carolina linebacker Spencer Eason-Riddle, a semifinalist for the Witten Collegiate Man of the Year award. The honor goes to the player who's the best leader on and off the field. I'm Scott Davidson.
It's Kelly Nash with great news. If you're a guy suffering from brain fog, sleeping problems, or less drive, we now have the Men's Clinic in Irmo. The medical team runs full labs and then gets a plan designed just for you to get back to your old self. 803-875-MENS or themensclinicsc.com.
Sports Radio. Fox Attitude. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Welcome back to the Rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world in the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. You know, I wanted to take a quick moment here, and we talked a little bit about the guys that were opting out. In case you missed it, you would know all of this, by the way, if you were checking out my blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com. Israel Wakwamu has decided to pack it in and go train for the pros. Same thing goes for J.C. Horn, R.J. Roderick, and Tobias Scott, I believe is the other gentleman's name, that has decided that, hey, I'm going to opt out for the rest of the season. And, you know, I got a big time problem with that. But it's one of those things you can't really do much about it. I mean, if they want to go, they go. I mean, that's kind of the best way to, you know, wish them the best, I guess. With South Carolina, though, I think that I've been pretty much out there about who I think should be the coach, and I think it should be Dave Clawson. But the odds were released by Sportsline, and we'll give you some of the candidates that they have in mind. Tony Elliott's at plus 1,200. I don't think he's leaving Clemson, especially, I mean, he played at Clemson. I don't think he's going to leave Clemson to go play at South Carolina. So I think that's kind of a pipe dream. Brent Venables is the same thing. I honestly don't think that Venables will leave there other than to go coach at Kansas State. I think they pay him way too much money, and the idea of him just, I don't know what the motivation would be. And Coach Ray Tanner told us yesterday, and I know I shouldn't call him that, he's the athletics director. Ray Tanner told us yesterday they're looking for an offensive coach. That's not what you're going to get with Brent Venables. It's not going to happen. Steve Sarkisian with Alabama. I think that would be an interesting pick there. Alabama's offense is outstanding, but he falls into the retread category where he had issues at Southern Cal. Not sure that's going to, for me, that would be something that I would have to research. Of course, he's had bouts with alcoholism. If you're able to overcome that, that's great. I'm not saying you should be completely opted out of that forever, but for me, it would be, I mean, his on-the-field stuff I don't have a problem with, but I'd want to research a good bit about him before I brought him in. I know he works with Coach Saban now, but with Coach Saban, man, he runs a tight ship. So, yeah, Sarkisian would be an interesting mix there. Jamie Chadwell down at Coastal. Of course, he coached at Charleston Southern, also did well with them there. At Coastal, they're the 15th ranked team in the country in the Sun Belt. Those guys look at him, man. They post their locker room celebrations after they win games, and those guys love him. And in addition to that, he's got Willie Corn down there, the former Clemson player, turning some dials for him down there. I think that he would have to be in the mix to come with him. But I just think that it's almost a year too early. I think that's kind of a reach, in my opinion. But you can't argue with what he's done on the field, so that wouldn't be that bad. According to Sportsline, Jeff Monken from Army, their head coach, if he comes in and he's trying to bring that triple option offense, it's not going to work in the SEC. They tried it at Georgia Tech, and it did okay. Georgia Tech was a team that you had to you didn't really, what's the word I want to use for it? You worried about them, but it wasn't like they were actually going to really jump leaps and bounds for a consistent amount of time. And it's hard to get some players to come and play in that kind of offense. I think that the reason that he's on the list is because of his ties to President Caslen. Hugh Freeze is at plus 300. My big thing with that is that, as I said, 3 years ago, it was at Ole Miss. They're still dealing with his problems now. And I don't know if that's the best way to go. This guy was using his phone to call escort services. He admitted that he did it. Now, I understand that people can be reformed. I completely get that. But you look at that and you're just like, that's just alarm bells for me. And their leader, according to Sportsline, apparently they didn't even think about David Clawson. They like Billy Napier, the Louisiana head coach. Now, he could come back to South Carolina. He's a guy that when I see him, I think he has the ability to evaluate talent at a very high level. So that's something that you're going to need at South Carolina, because I think that the way to be successful with the Gamecocks, in my opinion, is a twofold process. A threefold. One, you need to have some sort of culture. You're going to be an offensive team. You're going to be a defensive team. You're going to be a team that is rugged. What are you going to be? In 5 years with Will Muschamp here, no one knew what they were going to be. You need to have someone that has a system, and this is what we're going to do, and then try to implement on that system. The other end of it, too, is on the recruiting front, you're going to have to own the state. So you're going to have to go out and beat down doors across the state, make friends with the high school coaches that are here, and get to a point where you're going to have some 3-star guys and maybe some 4-star guys that are lower 4 stars that you're going to have to bring those guys in to implement with the in-state guys, and then have a nice solid base and then go from there. That's kind of the big thing, in my opinion, as the way you've got to go, because if you go that route and you get the guys that could play at Georgia, could play at Florida, but maybe they were overlooked just a little bit. Perfect example of that is the Gamecocks' new quarterback coach and Connor Shaw. You know, he came in and ended up being one of South Carolina's best quarterbacks ever. I think he was, a 2-3-star recruit at best. That's the kind of guys that you need. You need to recruit those guys, and you need to be able to develop them. And with this, Billy Napier, the Louisiana head coach, he has the capability to do that. So getting him would not be a bad hire, in my opinion. Now, I hope that they're not trying to just hire somebody that's going to just excite the fan base right off the bat. You know, I use the Bob Stoops of the world. Okay. Yes, he won a national title somewhere else. I get that. But I'm hoping that in the end, it comes down to who can build the program and is willing to stay here for a while, because it's going to take a while. It really is. More of the rundown in just a moment. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400.
When you get in your car, you need the best directions to get where you want to be.
You will arrive at your retirement in 8 years.
The same is true for your retirement. You need a voice to guide you along the way. Join Pat Struby for Save Your Retirement with Pat Struby. Pat's 18 years of experience can help make your retirement journey feel like a drive down easy street.
Arriving at your retirement.
Saturdays, 6 a.m. on Fox Sports Radio, and Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 9 on 560 WVOC for Save Your Retirement with Pat Struby.
Xfinity has that include it factor, because all of your seasonal essentials are already, you guessed it, included. From a full plate of family-style TV to cooking shows worth drooling over, it's included. Holiday jams like iHeart Christmas and North Pole Radio from iHeartRadio to blast throughout the house, it's included. Plus, during Free TV Week, November 24th to the 30th, even more is included with award-winning hits from premium networks. Some people just got it, and you've got it all.
Edwin, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate everybody over there watching the show. I forgot to turn the microphone on to the computer with the board mic because I'm dumb. So thank you for that. You rock, buddy.
The latest in smart home tech, even holiday decor to light up the living room or bring joy to the neighborhood. Black Friday savings, in-store, online, store-wide.
Jim McElwain's a clown. You need to stop.
US only while supplies last. See store for details.
I am Steve Smith Sr., and on my new podcast, Cut to It, we're talking to your favorite athletes.
The New Orleans Saints.
Steve Smith got a podcast. He was my favorite wide receiver in the NFL. He was 5'7" tall, but he wanted to fight everybody. I can appreciate that. If you're 5'7", 5'8" tall, and you're going out on the field, you're looking at these big tall guys, and he wanted to fight. He fought the guys on his own team. Like Steve Smith a lot. I might listen to that podcast. I really would. I mean, he is he was one of my favorites. I remember like he made Jake Delhomme look like a great quarterback. He really did. I mean, he was so good. He was a good blocker. He was just great, and he wanted to fight people. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying you should. I think in between the lines, within sportsmanship, you know. But you're not gonna out physical me. I'll knock you out. I like that guy a lot. Might listen to that podcast. That might happen. I download that and listen on the way home. That could be good.
Online at foxsportsradio1400.com, on your phone with the iHeartRadio app, and on hundreds of devices like Alexa, Google Home, Xbox, and Sonos, an iHeartRadio station.
Final segment of the rundown this afternoon. Don't forget to share your holiday food drive. Share in the spirit of giving during this year's Share Your Holiday Food Drive. Donate safely by either texting Share Food, which is the easiest way, by the way. Just text Share Food to 44321. Man, 44321. That goes to Harvest Hope. You can also go to the harvesthope.org website, and we can help some people have some food here over the holidays. And I know it's a tough time out there. A lot of folks losing their jobs. And, you know, hunger is one of those things you don't think about until you're actually hungry. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. So I will be out there on December the 3rd, and I will unload your whatever it is you decide to donate, your non-perishable food items. We will have where you can do it from a socially distant manner. We're going to make it really safe for you and easy. You drive up down there to First Baptist Church, donate what you want to donate, and then move on. I'll wave at you from the side of the road there. Anyway, we'll be broadcasting the show live out there that day. So stand by for that. And of course, we're doing this with Watch Fox and us here at Fox Sports Radio 1400. By the way, we were listening to during the break there, I was telling the folks that were watching online, Steve Smith's podcast on the iHeartRadio app. I have to listen to that because Steve Smith was one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL. And he was a guy that was like unapproachable, in my opinion, because he wanted to kill everyone he played against. He was fighting his own teammates. But when you're 5'7", 8 inches tall, however tall he was, he's out there knocking people out and was one of the most dynamic receivers in the NFL in his time. And he made Jake Delhomme look like a good quarterback. That means you are one heck of a wide receiver, in my opinion. Check out his podcast. It's on the iHeartRadio app. And I'll be downloading that and listening on the way home because that is going to be outstanding, I think. Of course, he did stuff with like the NFL Network and things like that. All right, we'll take your calls this afternoon. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. That's one coach down from the SEC. Is there going to be another? You would think Derek Mason's name might be in the mix. I don't know for sure. We'll have to see how that rolls. Also, is Jeremy Pruitt going to be shown the door? They haven't had exactly what they want at Tennessee with him under the reins there. When you look up and down the SEC East, I think that the other coaches are pretty much going to stay in their spot there. Kirby Smart's not going anywhere. Same thing for Dan Mullen. Obviously, the coach at Mizzou, Eli Drinkowitz, he's not going anywhere. Coach Stoops at Kentucky's not going anywhere. I think there may be some changes with Derek Mason at Vanderbilt. As far as the West goes, you know, Mississippi State with the Pirate. I thought he was going to come in and implement that offense and be outstanding. Yeah, not so much. Would anybody be shocked if he decided, I don't want to do this anymore? I mean, if you've seen any of his press conferences, I don't know if he's in it for the long haul or not. The other coaches in the league, they're not going anywhere. I think LSU was going to get rid of Bo Pelini. I think they should have fired him after the first game. But I understand you have to give guys another opportunity. But LSU is probably going to get a new defensive coordinator. I think everybody else is pretty much happy over there in the SEC. In the ACC, you look at it, is Dino Babers going to stay on at Syracuse? They haven't been very good this season. Justin Fuente at Virginia Tech, that's another name that I think may decide, hey, they may mutually decide, yeah, we don't want to deal with this anymore. And the big game for them, of course, is the Commonwealth Cup, I think is what they call it up there. If he loses a second straight to Virginia after they'd won 17 years in a row, COVID or not, that's going to be too much for the Virginia Tech fan base to handle, in my opinion, in addition to a loss to Liberty. Yeah, you're going to have a loss. That makes you what? The third best team in the state behind Liberty and Virginia. The Virginia Tech fans don't want anything to do with that. So I think Justin Fuente may find somewhere else to go. And we'll see how that rolls out. The other names in the ACC, when I look at them, on the Atlantic side, I don't think anybody's going anywhere. I think everybody's going to be set. The Coastal side, Jeff Collins isn't going anywhere. He's still trying to build his program there. Mike Norvell at Florida State, he's a first-year coach. I think it's going to be Dino Babers, maybe, and, of course, Justin Fuente at Virginia Tech. As far as around the country, everybody wants to get rid of the Southern Cal coach, Clay Helton. We'll see how that works out for them. Some names that might be on the move. You look at Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. You talk about a guy who gets the most out of the least. His roster, according to the 247 Sports Composite, is one of the worst as far as the Power 5 teams in the country. And he's been at Oklahoma State for a while now. They're a top 10 team. They've got our top 12 team. They've got to play Oklahoma this weekend. Maybe he's deciding, hey, I want to go try something else. Edwin chimes in online with Chip Kelly. Man, remember when Chip Kelly was good? When Chip Kelly was outstanding and everybody was talking about his offensive philosophies and, how they ran practice at 100 miles an hour and, it was organized chaos. But now it's like, man, he looks like he just doesn't want to be out there anymore. And I don't know how that's going to work out, but that's going to be interesting in its own right. James Franklin at Penn State, they have an 0-4 start. Maybe he's a guy that's like, I want to go test the water somewhere else. I don't know. Just throwing out names there. But that could be interesting too. If you have a coach you think will be next on the fired list, give us a call at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown as we wrap up this edition here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. The coach's hot seat candidates include Derek Mason as number 1, Jim Harbaugh from Michigan. I completely forgot about him. Les Miles from Kansas. Kevin Sumlin from Arizona. And then they've got Jeremy Pruitt, Clay Helton, Justin Fuente, Scott Frost from Nebraska. Then Dino Babers. Yeah. It's I don't know how the buyouts on all these guys work, but interesting to say the least. Randy Edsall at UConn. Maybe that's something else. But Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, they might want to go somewhere else. The Michigan fans they're tired of his mess. I think that's the best term to use. They are not very happy. And let's not forget 2 ranked teams. Gus Malzahn and Tom Herman this weekend. Tom Herman, who is Tom Herman playing? I can't remember. They've got a big game this weekend, but Gus Malzahn essentially has the Iron Bowl this weekend. If he wants to keep his job, he should probably win the Iron Bowl. Just go out and beat Alabama. Go out and do it. I'm not calling that they would get the upset there because I don't think it's going to happen. But would anybody be surprised if Bo Nix went down there to Alabama and Alabama, with their defense being as bad as it is, and it's pretty bad, ladies and gentlemen. It's a bad defense, in my opinion. Would you be surprised if they went down there and won? I wouldn't be surprised. With the way that Alabama's defense has so many holes in it, giving up points to everybody, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Alabama rolled down there and they play not this weekend, but next weekend. Alabama plays Kentucky this weekend, but with the Iron Bowl next week, that's going to be interesting. All right. So thanks for joining us on the Rundown. Clemson Sports Talk is next. I'm Rob Sanders. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, guys.